All right, well, welcome to our morning devotions. We're in Genesis chapter 5, and this is the lineage of Adam, and we end at chapter 5 with Noah, and this is the lineage that through which Christ is going to come, because we know Cain is the son, likewise the son of Adam, but Christ does not come through the lineage of Cain. That's the point. And so that's what we're looking at here. In verse 1, as we begin this chapter, is very interesting. It just lists names and ages, which is pretty remarkable. The one thing we're going to note that before the flood, people lived a long time. Generations would have overlapped and overlapped and overlapped because you live so long. I mean, you could see uh, a lot of your family down the line because of your age. And so let's just look at this for a moment. It says this in Genesis chapter 5, verse 1. This is the book of the generations of Adam. And the book here just is in reference to not a separate book, but an accounting or a list or a chronicle of the generations of Adam from Adam's, because everybody comes from Adam, but this is the generation through which the Messiah is going to come, Christ is going to come. It says, in the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. And that's important because this is after the fall, post fall. And you see, as I said earlier, that the image of God is not lost in man because of the fall. It has been corrupted, but it has not been lost. All right. We know we stand as rebels against God, but the fact that we're still made in his image and demonstrate those things that make us the image of God. I think yesterday was I was what I said yesterday about the lineage of Cain and the skill sets they have, that they could produce things, they were making things. These would be an expressions of the lineage of Cain still being in the image of God. They created music, musical instruments. They farmed well. They were herdsmen. There were the blacksmiths here and the creator of all kinds of items that have never been seen before, which is the point. We don't create out of nothing ex nihilo, but man is a creator. And I remember when I was a kid, when the old Star Trek came out back in the mid 60s, my dad told me when it first came out, we were watching the old Star Trek, the first series. Uh, Dad used to say, that's all going to happen. And the reason he said that was not because he had some technological insight. It's just that when we speak of man in the image of God, his capacity to develop things and to grow is limitless because we're made after our creator in a relative finite way. And and he just said because this is the capacity that is in even in fallen man, given enough time, in spite of the fall, man is going to accomplish great things, which we have seen happen, especially in the West. The things that have been accomplished through the fallen mind, and that is because we are made like our Creator, endowed with naturally endowed in the image of God with great capacity to learn and to develop and to create, not out of nothing, but to create things that didn't exist before. I mean, just look around. There was a time, the things that we're dealing with now, I mean, you go back to the time of my great grandmother, and these things didn't exist. I mean, it's just amazing. So, uh, after the fall, you're still in the image of God. That's the point. And that is also why when you get old, the elderly, and the handicapped, their value is not in what they can do. We're living in a world right now where your value is connected to what you're able to contribute to society or contribute to the world. But that's not the way a Christian should see a human being. Doesn't matter who they are, where they're from. They are in the image of God. Doesn't matter if they're handicapped. Doesn't matter if they're getting old and they're no longer able to do what they were once able to do, or handicapped just because of the way they were born or an accident or something, cannot produce as other people. all human beings. By the fact you are a human being, you are in the image of God and therefore of infinite worth. And that is why when we get down here to Genesis chapter 9, that if you kill something in the image of God, which is man or a woman, they're in the image of God, God says, because you have killed something of such infinite worth, that your life should be taken. All right. That's God's plan. Now we call it capital punishment, but we're getting away from the premise of it, and that is what you killed is that which uniquely represents God. And for if you kill something that uniquely represents God, and what I mean by killed, I mean this would be cold-blooded capital, the murder. If you kill somebody like that, then your life is forfeited because of it. That is the only thing that evens or whereby justice is done. And so we need to get back to that. Let me just say that when you get away from the content of the Bible, you don't see it within a theological construct, then you start looking at it on a societal construct, and then people start talking about all kinds of other things. Like we're gonna change that person as if incorrigibility isn't a real thing. You got to stick with the Bible on these things, even as it governs the operation of our government. All right, so or our state. Let's keep going here. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and both are in the image of God. All right, because the image of God is not external, solely external. It is external because there is male and female. That's why there's male and female. But they're both in the image of God. And it goes on to say, he said, and blessed them, that is in the beginning, he blessed them and called, and you should mark this in your Bible, called their name, Adam and Eve's name, Adam, in the day that they were created. Now, that's true. In the day that they were created, we know that it's not until after the fall that we read in Moses' account here, the Holy Spirit's account, that Adam names Eve because she's the mother of all living. That doesn't happen until after the fall. But in the beginning, the fact that they are both Adam, I think I'm going to have to talk to the Lord when we get to glory on this. Or I just have to read more about what other men have said. But I don't think we can understand the intimacy that existed between Adam and Eve. There is a part of him in her. They are as close to equal in every way that you can imagine, except by the order of creation. And who had the priority in the order of creation, and that she was made for him. She completed him. It's like he wasn't complete without her, and she doesn't exist without him. And so as a unit, he calls them as if they're one person, Adam. This is a remarkable thing, all right? We've never seen this in our lifetime because we live under the curse. But this would have been the way it was before the fall. And I say that to build the case for what I've said earlier about why Adam also ate of the fruit. There was something about Eve, everything about Eve was intimately Adam's. They were together. They were one. All right, in a way like, and the Bible talks about the oneness of the marriage relationship as a mystery, but more so there. Okay, so they called their name Adam. That's how close it was, how intimate it was in the day that they were created, and everybody, all creation is done on the sixth day. All creation is done on the sixth day. He says it's very good, and then on the seventh day he rests. Let's see. Now we're going to talk about a list of names, and I don't know how far I want to go on this. The whole chapter is a list of names, and let me just go through the list and give you just some of the highlights here. They said in verse 3, and Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness. And you see, I've said that before, that we are in the likeness of our fathers. My father, after his father, after Adam, we're all sinners, right? And I am made in the likeness of my dad, all right? And so was Seth here in the likeness of his dad. He begot a son in his own likeness after his image in the same way. Now, not in the same way because Adam's made out of nothing. But it's interesting that before conception, you didn't exist. It's just that you weren't made out of nothing. There was necessary for mom and dad and for conception to take place. But before then, you didn't exist. There's these relative finite parallels between our existence and God's because we're in his image. We're never going to be God. I mean, I'm a dualist. There's a creator and the creature. We can never, ever approach God. I mean, unto who God is. It's impossible. He is infinitely above us. But in creating us, he made us in a relative, finite way like himself. All right? It says, he begat a son in his own image, excuse me, in his own likeness after his image, and called his name Seth. In the days of Adam, after he had begotten Seth, were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. So the point is, and I made this back in chapter 4, verse 14, we only see key people, but there are people being born, and the population of the earth is multiplying here. Kids are being born, all right? And here it says, and after, we have Cain and Abel. Abel's killed by Cain. Then we have Seth. And then we have, to Adam and Eve, they kept having kids. And he begat sons and daughters, all right? And all the days of Adam lived, and here is one of my saddest verses in the Bible in verse 5. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years. He lived to be 930 years old. All these numbers of how long they lived in this time are huge. Huge. They're all of them are approaching 1,000 years. They're almost all of them here are over 900 or around 900, about in there. It's amazing how long people lived, and there's kind of conjecture about this. One is the condition of the planet during this time, because there's no seasons right now. Still, there's no rain. There appears to be a regular temperature. When we speak of dying, there are things in the world that have multiplied that make living here on this planet difficult. Bad air, bad water, those kind of things, which we try to stay away from that. But the earth is cursed, is what I'm trying to say. And it's just that we're at the beginning of things when those things didn't exist. I mean, or not to the degree that they exist right now. And so, and I mean, I've read stuff. I don't want to get into it. That you'll have to check that on your own. But there's reasons here why the people lived longer. All right, because after the flood, in that I would argue that the atmosphere above, which was filled with water, which protected the earth from the harmful rays of the sun, when that emptied out on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and the fountains of the deep came up, and that's how you could cover the whole planet, that when that transpired after the flood, the ages start dropping off, all right, because Abraham lives at 130 years, which is only a fraction of those that lived on prior to the flood. So that just put a little asterisk in that. You could check that out by those that study this further. But there's a big switch in how long you live here. So he lives to be 930. Down here in verse 8, it says, and all the days were 912. So for Seth, he lives to be 912, not quite as long as his dad, but almost. Then you come down here to Enos. And Enos, Enos is the son of Seth. And he begot all of these guys. Seth begat sons and daughters. Enos begot sons and daughters. And Canaan begat sons and daughters. Enos lives to be 905. Canaan lived to be 910. He begat sons and daughters. And then you have Mahalalel. He lived to be 895, and he died. He begot sons and daughters. Then you have another Enoch in here, which is the Enoch we talk about. Enoch is mentioned in here, and he's mentioned in the book of Jude, so there is more of a record of Enoch, the preaching and ministry of Enoch, than we have here. Jude is aware of it, but Uh, anyway, the Bible doesn't tell us everything that's going on. It's interesting. Just think about this for a minute. While the whole world is unfolding, the whole planet is unfolding, history is unfolding, the Bible focuses on one family. One family. It doesn't tell us very much about all the ramifications of the rise of the Babylonians and the Assyrians and the Medo-Persians and the Greeks and the Romans. It doesn't tell us anything about that. It tells us about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You see? Why? Because the Bible's focus is Christocentric. The Bible's focus is to put us on a trajectory looking towards the Messiah. It's Christ centered, not geopolitical. Now, it includes those things, but that's not its focus. Its focus is to tell us how the Son of God is going to come to earth, and he's come through a particular lineage, through a particular family, and he is the Son of God. He's going to be born in Bethlehem and crucified in Jerusalem and raised from the dead after 3 days and 3 nights in the tomb, and he is seated at the right hand of the Father, and those things are what the Bible speaks of, not the rise of the Egyptians. I mean, you would say if you were going to write about the rise of world powers, I mean, these would be volumes and volumes, and guys have written that, but that's not what the Bible's focused on. And that's what you see here. It doesn't tell us everything. It just tells us what we need to know to get us to look to Christ. Okay? That's it. And there's all this other, there's historical material, of course. As you've been with me through the Kings, and when we look in the Chronicles, there's dates and times and battles and cities, and it's historically anchored. But all of those things are oriented to keep us looking towards Christ, to the cross. So you have Enoch here. In all the days of Jared, which is Enoch's dad, Jared, were 960 years old, and he died. And after every one of these names, they begat sons and daughters. Now, if you live to be 960 years old, I mean, you could procreate a lot of kids. Some of these guys are like over 100 before they have any kids. It's very interesting. It's just very interesting how this unfolds. But Jared's 962, and then Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah. And this is the Methuselah that is the guy that lived the longest. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. So Enoch has this gigantic family. All these people have gigantic families. They have these families would have intermarried. Is the point? You're getting an immense population now. All right, started with Adam and Eve, but now as a result of what we're reading here, just talk about the tremendous population explosion. Okay, a population explosion as we see it here. And it says, and all the days of Enoch were 365. 365 years for Enoch, but we know his number is low. It's only 365 because in verse 24 it says, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Now that's what happened to Enoch. What he was engaged in was so wonderful, God took him home early. And I have to read this because I get a kick out of it, because when you start talking about walking with God, people think you're just holding the hand of the Savior and you're walking in the meadow and it's a bright sunny day and the bluebirds are chirping and you can smell the aroma of the wildflowers, and it's just a rosy, wonderful, warm, cozy idea. This is what it means to walk with God, until you read about what walking with God means back here in the book of Jude. Here's what it means to walk with God. Here's a reference to Enoch. He said in verse 14 of Jude, and Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these same. Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints. And that's why I argue that Enoch is pre-trib, pre-mill, all right, because the saints are going to come back with him before the establishment of the millennial reign. None of this is in the Old Testament. You read this in the New Testament about what Enoch believed. That's why I say that this book is not that big, okay? It's not that big. I got one volume of Encyclopedia Britannica is bigger than this, okay? It's not a big book. God tells us what he needs us to know, what he reveals about himself. And all I say is I'm glad he didn't give us a second volume, because we have enough trouble with one. Okay? I mean, can you imagine if there was 2 volumes? Oh man, I mean this is enough, okay, from God. I mean it will. No one yet has been able to wrap their minds all the way around everything in it, and that's because it's God's word. But here's what he said. He says, "But behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints." This is what Enoch is preaching while he's walking with God. And this is what he's preaching: to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches, which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. All right, there you have it. That is Enoch. That's what it means to walk with God. And let me see. Let me just look at one other thing here. Um, so Enoch's gone. Then you have Methuselah. Methuselah lives 969 years, and he begat sons and daughters. Then you got Lamech. He lived 770 years. Um, and I'll read these last few verses. In verse 28, it says, "And Lamech lived 180 and 2 years and begat a son, and he called his name." Now this is Noah's dad, and he called his name Noah, saying, "This same shall comfort us concerning the work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed." This is all still here. Lamech is talking about how tough it is to make a living and stay alive. So Noah is born, and Noah is given a name which is a blessing. "The same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands." That Noah is going to bring us comfort in the midst of the struggles that we're having here, because the ground which the Lord hath cursed. And I think this is remarkable, because people say, well, when times are tough, maybe we shouldn't have kids. No. Now, some of the prophets are told, don't get married and don't have kids, because the destruction of Jerusalem was coming. But the idea is, here in the midst of a hard time, families are still being raised, and it's going to be that little one that is going to be the means of getting out of it. Okay, it's going to be a blessing in the midst of it, and that's what we see here. That properly understood, the birth of children, of a son and a daughter, is a wonderful, amazing thing that should be just encouraged and prompted. And the idea of raising a family and investing in another life, a little daughter, a little son, watch them grow from childhood to adulthood, and then see how the Lord uses them along the way. And then when they're on their own, to see them in their own element, at their best. I mean, there's nothing more wonderful than this. Nothing. And that's what we see here. Noah is there in a time where they're struggling because of the curse. But he said he's going to be a means of comfort. All right. "This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because the ground which the Lord hath cursed." And Lamech lived after he begat Noah 509, 90 and 5 years, and begat sons and daughters. So there's more kids. And all the days of Lamech were 770, and he died. And then verse 32, and we'll close with this. "And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth." And then we get into chapter 6, where everything, the deterioration of the world is just put on full relief. I mean, everyone can see it here when you start chapter 6. Okay. Well, a little different, but that's chapter 5 of the book of Genesis. All right. And this is just pointing us to Christ. So the Lord bless you. Have a great day, and live for the Lord. I got to tell you, I got 15 pages to go, and I'll have read through the Bible. All right. I got it down. I'll have read through the Bible one time. I'm trying to get through it 4 times. See if I can get through it 4 times this year. And I'm not going to say I'm going to, because I don't know what tomorrow brings, but Lord willing, we'll see if we can get through that. All right. But 15 more pages to go, and that'll be 1. So, all right. Well, the Lord bless you. And Lord willing, I'll see everybody tomorrow. Okay. We'll see you. Bye.